And we're live! Hello everyone, it's the regular meeting of Rundfunk mitbestimmen again. And currently it's the 23rd of January 2019. And there's already Omar and there's Faith who are with me this time. Hello Faith, hello Omar.
Hello.
I was, the minutes before the meeting, I was reviewing some pull requests and they're not done yet. So we have so many updates, so many dependency updates, and apparently they're all green, which I find suspicious. Like usually there would be more failures, and it was even like checking the build server. Maybe it was just a silent fail, you know? Build server is green, and maybe that was just because something is wrong in our build pipeline. But I think everything is okay. Everything looks, no failing tests, everything green. So I was expecting maybe we made a mistake and, for example, Breakman or whatever, or RSpec was failing and yet not failing the build, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We had the discussion recently, but looks okay. So, for example, I'm going to merge this particular version. Confirm, because it's a security update. And I can also consider to merge the Postgres adapter. So that's interesting because we are patching the Postgres adapter. So I'm especially not very comfortable merging that one. But apparently the build didn't crash, so let's just do that.
So I have a question.
Yes.
How do you decide that this recommendations is what the project needs? Do you manually test it, or you just trust the build?
Yeah, I just trust the build. So what I do is I click on changelog and I see if something is looking dangerous. If there's a breaking change, people would probably write it into the changelog. So here, there's something about 32-bit systems, which doesn't apply to us. New error codes, okay. And Ruby 2.6 support for Windows. And we're not using Windows at all. So this is okay for me, and I'm going to merge that update. Right? Usually I should wait until dependabot updated the pull request, because when you merge one pull request, then it's trying to update all the other pull requests, but the build pipeline currently is under heavy load. There are only four containers running and testing one branch at a time. So I'm now deciding, okay, I think it will be fine. It wasn't failing before, so you can see that, okay, I saw it before. You cannot see it right now, but before dependabot updated the branch, that thing here was green. So I decide, okay, I think I can safely merge it, right? Okay. And there's Daniel. Daniel, hello.
Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Hello, Faith.
I also merged your pull request. The pull request
Yeah,
with the parts in V3. Maybe we can start with that. Daniel, maybe you want to show us what you did in the latest pull request.
All right. Yeah, I will maybe show it on GitHub.
Yes, please.
Application door.
Yeah, but Faith, if you have Dependabot, it only makes sense if you have a really reliable test pipeline. Right? If you start new in a project and there are no tests, and you want to use Dependabot, it's very dangerous to click on merge without even checking it.
If you do not have reliable tests.
Then it's very dangerous. But I'm really trusting our build pipeline. I put a lot of effort into the tests, and now we're benefiting from it because it's so reliable and it's also sustainable. If, for example, Omar sends in a pull request and the build is green, I can more or less say, okay, he didn't break anything or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 second. I will
Yeah,
be
no
right
problem. In the meantime, we can have a look at Daniel's screen.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, Daniel is currently phoning. All right, so then we'll have a chat with Faith again. Or Omar. Omar, you recently joined this project, is that correct?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, there was this course on this advanced course on agile methods in Ruby.
Yeah.
And the course required me to do one pull request in an open source project.
Yeah.
And, this was one that was available. So I thought maybe I could do some help a little bit in this project.
Right, nice. That's a good idea. So you want to send us a pull request and to get the exercise on the course finished.
Well, the course is already over, so so I actually don't need to do it, but
you want to do it.
Yeah, it would be nice to do it.
Is
anyway,
the course about Rails or any other technology?
Sorry?
Is the course that you're talking about, is it about Rails or what is it about?
It's mostly Rails. It's mostly a Ruby course. We program in Ruby.
Right.
And do a website using this Ruby on Rails framework.
So you want also to work on the backend, is that correct?
I don't really mind where I put my work. We were talking with Daniel like 1.5 weeks ago, and he suggested me to do a tooltip on the front end. So I could do that. But
yeah,
I can do
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So you also want to work on the front end?
Yeah.
If you want to work with Daniel, I have a good idea that comes to my mind right now. So let me screen share for a second. So let us first really enjoy what Daniel did on the visualization. So first of all, this nice overview page, which looks much better now. And then we click on changes over time, and then we see this amazing chart.
It's not yet.
And so Daniel changed something on the color scale. As you can see, the scale is not the zero, the balance is not in the middle, it's now here, and we can see changes much easier. So I can really see what improved and what didn't improve, and I can still see like the extreme changes, like here, right? But I can also see subtle changes, for example here. So here we improve by 0.73%, whereas here we improve by 7.5%, which is much more. But yeah, we still see that those two are going well. So this is what Daniel has done, which is really, which I really appreciate. And since you said you also want to work, so Omar, since you said you also wanted to work on the front end,
Yes.
this is the front end. You want to work on a tooltip. I want you to implement a mouse over callback, right? So this will be an improvement on desktop PCs where we have a mouse cursor.
Yeah.
This will not be such a big improvement on mobile phones because we don't have a cursor, we don't have on hover. But if you have on hover, I want you to highlight these bubbles.
Yep.
Somehow, either you make an outline, right?
Yep.
Or you have, I don't know, I think the outline would be the best solution. So people understand that they can actually click on it, right? So this brings me to another visualization of this broadcast. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. Is that do you see, or is the purpose understandable? Like why we want to do it?
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Sorry to interrupt you. I have to go, but can you write me what? Yeah, if you want to pair with me or something, yeah, can you write me on Slack or?
Yes. So Daniel's handle is @dkuku.
I spoke with Omar already, so.
All right. Nice. Cool. So no problem, and you can leave.
I will watch it later. So yeah.
Yes, we have it all on YouTube. Nice.
Okay.
And you have the course here. Thank you very much, Omar. All right. So Daniel, no problem. But glad that you have you with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to create a new issue for you, Omar.
All right.
First of all, let me see if we already have something like that. Visualize. Oh, okay. Then I will create a new feature.
Okay. What's the repo address?
So it's visualize temporal, I think. Or what is it? No, visualize time.
That's time. Wait.
Highlight broadcasts on hover to encourage users to click. Maybe just like that. Highlight broadcasts.
Yep.
Like that. So so I would say the problem is the visualization looks nice, but it's a hidden feature that you can click on broadcasts and get to another page. If we highlight the broadcasts and also change the mouse cursor, people intuitively understand that each bubble is also a link to another
link also.
special visualization to a more detailed of that broadcast, right?
Yes.
And that's actually a part of the solution. So we put it here. Visualization, which visualization looks nice? This visualization looks nice.
So should those tooltips be clickable also, or should they just only hover?
So the tooltip should still be there, right?
Yeah.
So I can see the data,
Yep.
but I want also the mouse cursor to change. Oh no, it's actually changing. See this?
Mhm.
So what we need is some kind of highlighting. So when I move my cursor along these bubbles, then each bubble is the bubble which is under my cursor, it gets highlighted. So I can understand it's clickable.
Mhm.
And yeah. Okay. So I'm going to assign you then. This is a really great and easy. Oh no, you're not in the collaborators list.
No.
Can you give me your GitHub account name, please?
Sure. This is my GitHub name.
All right. So I'm giving you right permissions to the repository. You know, as Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. If you push the master,
I'll see. I'll try to be responsible.
yeah, if you push to master, this will trigger a deployment, right?
Yeah, I know how to do branches.
Exactly. Please open a pull request and we're safe. Even if you accidentally push to master, we still have our tests in place, but just don't delete any tests. All right?
Yes.
Great. So I'm assigning you then. Omar, no. Did you accept my invitation already?
Oh. No, not yet.
But then I will make it a good first issue and for the front end. And yeah, it's great. Right. By the way, the visualization here should be more detailed, like a line graph of the development of Run broadcast in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Right. This here is more like an overview. And if you click on one broadcast, then you would get here. And this is entirely unimplemented. So if somebody really feels brave, maybe faith, you can also implement a completely new feature.
Okay.
Right? Also, actually, maybe we should shout out the accomplishment of Daniel. I'll do that later. I do that later. It's not for the meeting. Usually, I send out a Twitter, a tweet, if someone implemented anything that affects the user experience, right?
Yeah.
So we have a couple of tweets about people, for example, here who do pair programmings or who implement a new feature, and then I'll create a tweet for that, right? Actually, we should do that for the recent pull requests. I think there have been quite a few. All right.
Yeah, I think that's
Omar, is this something interesting for you?
Say again?
Do you think the feature that I just assigned to you is, or which I'm going to assign to you once you accept my invitation, do you think this feature is interesting? Is something that you would like to work on?
Yes. I think it's a very nice feature to work on.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Got that sorted. And Faith, how's your situation? Are you stuck somewhere? Did you work on something? Do you have questions? Are you still in Nairobi, or are you already in this other town where you want to attend school again? How's it with you? Don't worry to unmute yourself. It's all right. You can
Okay.
unmute yourself.
All right. So I am good. I'm still in Nairobi. I'm going to that other town in May. I haven't been up to anything related to RFM. I was hoping to pick up something small though, because at the moment I don't have so much time available.
Yeah.
Yeah, something backend, because
Something with backend?
yeah, since the year began, I've been doing lots of JavaScript, Vue.js.
I know.
So yeah, something backend would be nice.
Something with the backend. All right. Shall
Yeah.
we have a look together?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen once again. So let's see. So Faith wants to work on something with the backend. Omar, do you know that you can always search for backend related or frontend related issues if you just click on this label?
No, looks seems logical.
Yeah, so if something is likely requires a change in the backend, we label it with backend. If something likely requires a change in the front end, we label it front end. So the issue we talked about before, that's something in the front end. Now let's see if we find something small in the backend. First of all, what is about the open pull request, the pending pull request? I think we still have this one here. I think Siri wanted to work on that, and he has some troubles. Oh, and Faith actually started that pull request. I think it's almost done, honestly. Maybe you can also talk to Siri, what's going on here. So we had, oh yeah, so Rubocop is failing and RSpec is failing. That's just because of updates on Rubocop and RSpec side, right? So if you update Rubocop and RSpec, something in this pull request fails, which doesn't fail without the updates, which is interesting. So you can also, instead of working on something new, you can also work with together with Siri on that one.
Okay.
What about that? This is also something which is pending. So last commit is of August 2018. Maybe we should update this pull request. Can I update this pull request somehow? I would actually like to create another build because it's has been a while. Okay, I'm going to check out this branch and create another build and see if we have any. And see if we have any. I would suggest to you, Faith, to finish the
Pending.
pending pull requests. Yeah, and unless you're kind of annoyed by the old pull requests.
I am not so sure. In case I am annoyed, I'll let you know.
All right. We always find something interesting. So I'm now updating that branch with the latest commits of the original master. So I'm fetching. Omar, are you familiar with Git?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wow. We have about almost 800 commits.
Yeah, it's been a while since you updated.
Yeah. Okay, let's push that. And see how we go. So there should be another commit now. There it is. And there's our build. All right. So you can always update that pull request. This is about a monthly email list. And I think I requested certain changes. Yeah, because we have our email here, and it would be great to translate it. Is it translated? Yes, it is. So the header is translated. Yeah. All right. And we have records. That's actually a nice feature, sending emails out to people and get them to participate in the application again. I mean, we have a couple of mails, and we can reactivate our current user base. So if you don't want to work on the pending pull requests, something small would also be the anonymized dump. So here, this is really quickly finished, I think. So Daniel, he put in a pull request to create a dump, to manually dump the data and anonymize it, right? So when he tried to implement the visualization, he needed some actual production data, and he created a rake task that takes out the sensitive user data and replace it with seeded or fake data, right? So encrypted password is truncated, and especially the email is replaced with something else, right? Okay. And I don't know why the build is failing, but I think this pull request can be quickly finished, and then we can also merge it. All right. Oh yeah, and we have similar rake task already. I think they're coming from another Ruby gem. So when I am in the backend and I say bundle exec rake, that's Ruby make. Do you know Ruby make already, Omar?
Yeah. I took the Ruby course, so.
All right.
Yes, I do.
And then we have a couple of tasks, which we'll have in a minute once I update the gems. Oh, quite a lot. Okay, it's installing native extensions. That can take a while. But if you say rake hyphen capital T, that will show you the list of tasks. And I was a little bit confused. We have db data dump and db dump.
Okay. Those both relate to the database, right?
I think one of it is coming from a gem that we use. I think it's from Capistrano DB tasks. And one of it is now from Daniel. I think those two are from Daniel. Data dump, data load. So I'm okay with keeping to have a duplicate. Maybe we can rename it, instead of db data dump, we say Rails db anonymized dump. How about that?
Yeah, it would be more descriptive.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we can make a comment. We could call the rake task or namespace the rake tasks db anonymized dump. No? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So this is also something really simple. I'm currently thinking of what was the issue here. I don't know. I think the review was done, so I'm going to see why the pull request build was failing. It's just Rubocop and Rubocop again. So all you have to do is to run Rubocop on this on Daniel's branch. Oh no, it's a fork. Okay. Then I will quickly do that myself because it's so little to do. Or does Daniel can give you permissions to his fork? Omar, do you want? No, Faith. We're talking about Faith. Faith, are you also already working with remotes? Faith?
Yes. Yes.
And do you have the remote of Daniel in your remote list?
No.
So in order to push to Daniel's fork, you can always read from the fork. But in order to push to the fork, you need to ask Daniel for write permissions. And then you can also send data or send commits to that branch, which will in turn update the pull request here. I would like to ask you to do that because I think it's nice to learn how remotes work. So this is our list of remotes. And if you want to add another remote, then you can say git remote add, and then you type in a name. I have, as you can see, created the habit of naming remotes according to their GitHub account name. So I can say the DKUKU and then give it the remote. And then you learn how to fetch from the right remote. For example, git fetch DKUKU. This will fetch the latest branches from that remote. Okay. And if you have your branches, then you have your remote branches here. Right? There's another remote. So Faith, did you do that before? Or did you always use Origin?
So I think I've worked once with Matt. So I had to do that. I had to add his account as the remote.
Yeah, so then I would say this is a nice exercise. If you never did that before, if you have a rough understanding how remotes work, then I would say this is a nice exercise for you. It will leave it for you. So all you have to do is to run Robocop and send Daniel a pull request, and we can merge it. Okay. Maybe you can namespace it, but as I suggested here, as I suggested, where actually? I think I thought I created a comment. Yeah, as I suggested here, and then we are ready to merge. All right. So that's something also very easy. Is there? Do you want another issue that you want to work on for the backend, Faith?
No, I think that'll be good for now since I have this, and I'll talk to Sarah.
All right. I think this problem is also resolved. Because now they are in the footer. Cool. We can also close this issue. Is it something you like to work on right now? So Omar and Faith, after we found nice issues for you to work on, is there something you would like to learn since we still have a little time? It's only 45 minutes since we started. Do you want me to explain something to you, maybe?
Related to this project?
Related to this project if possible. If you have another question, maybe we can also cover that. Or maybe also from Omar, if you have something on your mind.
Yeah, I got one thing, but let's hear Faith first.
It has nothing to do with this project.
Right. So what was your question, Faith?
Should I, it has nothing to do with this project. So should I go ahead and ask first or?
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay. It was about component testings and
yes.
What if you're testing for components, what you should be testing exactly. What's necessary to test and what's not necessary.
Actually, this is a good question because it's actually related to this.
Okay.
to this repository because we have component testing also in RFM. So on Slack, I texted you in this thread here, component testing, and oh yeah, so I can answer that on Slack. This project is in a technology transition, so legacy means the old code. The legacy repos are web app, API, and documentation, everything that starts with nitro hyphen is the new stuff.
So that was clear before. What I meant to ask was, why are we moving from this old repo to this new repo?
While we're moving, because we have to change. That's actually a good question. Okay, so to get you on page, Omar, I'm talking with Faith on another project. The project is called Human Connection. That's also a project where I'm involved in.
All right.
And you actually wanted to know how to do component testing in Vue.js, because for Human Connection, we're using Vue.js. And I've sent you one example of the old repository where we have an example for a component test. And you wanted to know, what do you test with components? And based on that, you also wanted to know why we changed, why we did the complete transition of code also on the repo. Why we just not refactor the old code and keep it? And that's actually a good question, because it's better to refactor, right? We don't have two repositories that we have both to maintain, and we don't have to split our efforts, right? And no one is currently maintaining these repos anymore, although the code of these repos is currently deployed to production, right? Mm-hmm. So yes. Last commit from October 29th. And that was a difficult decision. We are changing so many interfaces. That's the reason why we selected this path to do complete rewrite. So what we had before is a similar architecture to RFM. We had a single page app, Vue.js. We had our backend. In this case, Feathers. Yes, and in between, we are using an interface called REST. Or, yeah, it's more a specification, but that's all right. And they communicate through this, through this interface. And we also had our database.
Yeah.
And this database in the old repository was a Mongo database. And there have been poor design decisions. So we are currently happy with the front-end part, but we're not happy at all with the back-end part. So first thing is MongoDB. The project Human Connection is about the social network. And MongoDB is a document database. That is, you have a JSON and it's a hierarchic data. And it's really hard to make relationships between resources, right? MongoDB has its advantages and its strength, but also its weaknesses. And especially if you want to do joins or relations between arbitrary records, then MongoDB is not the right choice.
No.
Right. So this was a poor design decision. We want to make this red. Where can I change the color? Background color. No. Come on. Right. Yeah. Ah. This is what I wanted to do. Right. So we don't want MongoDB anymore. Next thing is that it's hard with REST. REST is called representational, is the abbreviation for representational state transfer. And it's great if you want to update or fetch one resource at a time. But we learned that for our use case, we have to fetch many resources in for one purpose, usually, right? So you have the user, you want to have all his contributions, you want to have all his comments, and you want to have it on one page. And then with REST, you would first get the user, and then once you have the user, you send out multiple requests again and to get the contributions of that user, to get the comments of that user and posts and so on. And this took a while, right? So if a user comes with his browser and is requesting a resource, then you have multiple requests. And this is not very performant. And we wanted to use we want to have one request and get all the data we need. And that's why we decided to change that interface. Now, what happens is that we decided to go for another interface now. And that is, yes, now I have I don't want red here. Apply, right. That is GraphQL. And GraphQL has the capability of doing many requests or retrieving. It's a very flexible specification of interface. You can say, for example, give me the user and give me all his comments and contributions at the same time, right? But that means we have to change the interface. So we still have our front end. Maybe can I create? No. Is there text? Yes, there's text. So before, no, that's not what I want. There we go. Right, 50. And, oh no, don't do that. And we have after. So we still have our single page app. Whoops. It's communicating through GraphQL now. But we have to make a change here, right? Because we have to change the code because it's now using a completely different interface. And we also have our backend, which we also changed because now it's not Feathers.js anymore. We're not using MongoDB anymore. We just use Express, which is a framework for plain Node.js applications on the backend side. And we also have to change the backend code here. So that requires a change both here and here. And we also have a new database. We decided not to take, we now have Neo4j, which is a graph-based database. And it's really easy to make connections between users and posts and so on, and connections between arbitrary kinds of data, right? And therefore we have also something more to change here, right? So basically the whole backend code it got obsolete. Everything related to MongoDB got obsolete. And we even have to change certain parts in the front end. And in general, because we're touching so many things, we decided, okay, let's don't do a step-by-step migration, but instead we're scrapping the whole code base. We throw everything into the bin. We completely throw all those repositories here into here. We put that into the trash and forget about it, and only make maybe updates and security updates. So if you have a security vulnerability, we need to fix it, but there will be no further features. And we hope that we still have enough time to make the whole migration with a new code base and eventually go from here to here. So we now have a separate staging environment. This is running on the new code base already. And there's our staging environment, which is running on the old code base. And finally, we have our production server, which is also running on the old code base, right? Mm-hmm. These are to the old code base, and here's the new one. And it's difficult because we have to our donators who are donating to this application are getting impatient because they don't see any progress. So that's the disadvantage of this approach.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And now, as a final step, I can also show how this relates to RFM. But in RFM, we're also using a totally different stack. So for RFM, we have just a plain relational database that is Postgres. Okay. It's actually very similar, the whole architecture. For the backend, we have Rails, just the API part. Rails is also a server-side rendered framework, but we are using it only for the API. We have the JSON API as the interface specification, and we have a single page app, which is implemented in Ember.js, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a very, very comprehensive answer, I hope, to Faith's question, why we chose this way of migrating things. Faith, are you happy? Do you see the decision and why we chose this path, and what are the disadvantages or advantages?
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I do.
The disadvantage is now that we have a big piece of legacy code which nobody really maintains. So that's a disadvantage of the approach that we chose. Can you think of what would have happened if we did the step-by-step migration? What might be the disadvantage of this approach?
If you do a step-by-step migration?
Yes. What do you think? What might be the disadvantages of that approach?
You had mentioned something about time. Which
exactly.
Is going to take. Okay.
So the step-by-step migration would take much more time, probably. Right? So with this approach, we have a short time. Short means a couple of months for the transition. And in the meantime, we have to, I don't know the English word. In German, it would be vertrösten. So in English, that would mean to feed with hopes, to feed our users with hopes of progress, right? To promise somebody something, gem of tomorrow, yes. Yes, that's probably the English idiom. We have to promise our donators the gem of tomorrow for a couple of months. This transition would have taken, I guess, a year if we would do it step by step. All right? And that's why we decided to go that way. And for RFM, we're not doing any transition because the technologies in place are just okay. There are I think I've chosen the technologies very wisely. I'm very happy about having chosen Rails, and I'm very happy about chosen Ember.js for the front end. And I'm very happy about that we use a relational database because we're doing analytical stuff, and relational databases are best on that. All right.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm a little bit, I don't know, not so happy about is the JSON API, because I think the JSON API indeed is something that nobody uses except people who do Ember.js. But any other single page framework would use maybe something else. But Ember.js is really convention over configuration. All the others, Vue.js, React.js, they have no conventions, right? And everything is not built in place. So for example, just setting up tests in Vue.js is a pain. It's a pain. And Ember.js, it's just there, right? Everyone expects you to write tests in a particular location. And Ember.js is very, very stable. I have never seen any JavaScript framework so far which is so stable and so sustainable like Ember.js. And if I think of our use case, that we have people coming in like Faith and Umar who have no idea about the whole project and its architecture, and they just can look up Ember guides and more or less see the best practices explained there, put into place, then they can feel at home, right? And they can just submit pull requests, and it's very easy because it's very how would you say, streamlined?
Yes.
Does it make sense?
Mm.
Yeah.
It does.
Exactly. And for Vue.js or React.js, everything is, at least in my experience, it's very configuration heavy. So that's why I think that was a good decision. And with that framework, this interface also comes kind of included, because that's the default API of Ember Data, which is the front end part that does the synchronization between front end and back end. All right. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right. So now you know about all the thoughts and concerns. What is Überlegung in English? Consideration, reflection. Yeah, all the reflections about the architecture and why I chose one architecture over another. Right? And you can always make mistakes, right? So I mean, these two here, they did not match the particular use case for that project, right? And now we're kind of in getting rid of the mistakes of the past, and we get there eventually. I'm looking forward to the day when we can actually remove that where you can remove, or let's say we point this URL to the new code base, right? And totally get rid of the old source code. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Any more questions? Maybe Omar, do you want to know something in particular, or learn something in this talk? It's now 8 p.m. It's like 1 hour now, if it's just the two of us.
Mm.
You had another question, right?
Yes. I made a fork of the project, and I downloaded the code, and I put it up to run on my own computer. And instead of doing installations of the different like databases and such, I ran the containers. And there were some issues in making the containers run. There were some bugs in them, and I fixed those. And also, I noticed that the images that on which the containers run, they are quite big. and I think they could be made smaller.
Yes, you're right. So, absolutely. Let's have a look. So we have Ember CLI, which is quite big. Oh yes, Ember CLI is probably the biggest image here.
Mm.
And we have Postgres, which is, well, I
That's
would
a
say
good.
it's okay. And so we have 2 times, Sidekick is also very big. And the front end is especially big. Yes, so that's definitely something that you can improve. Have you heard about multi-stage builds, Omar?
No, not really.
All right, so multi-stage builds is a technique for the Docker files to make the Docker images smaller.
Okay.
So one thing that you can, for example, improve here is instead of installing each of these things separately, you could just put them in one row, because each line here creates another layer.
Yes.
Right, so that's a really easy thing to fix. So that would probably already improve minimize the file size. Similar
Yes.
here.
Yes, I've done that, but please show.
Yeah, it's all right. Similar here, you can say.
I don't think you can do that.
No?
No, I think the ads are a bit difficult, and I replaced those with copies.
Like that?
But yeah.
Right, so I think with copy it's possible. As long as you have the trailing slash, this here is considered a directory,
Yeah.
and then you can copy 2 things in one go, and that doesn't create another layer. Right, so this is something that can be improved. The biggest improve, in my opinion, is the multi-stage build.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Oh yeah, and I forgot one thing to mention. Why do we have CentOS as the base image of this container here?
Yes, that's a huge overhead, I'd say.
Yes. So the idea is, or the reason why I've chosen CentOS is reliability. But I'm now considering it to be of no big value. I think having smaller images has more value than to have the exact same operating system on our provider. So as you can see here, we are hosting on Uberspace, which is a pay as much as you want VPS provider. So we have our well, just a ordinary server that you can, virtual private server that you can SSH into.
Yep.
So if I say SSH RFMB at Rundfunk mitbestimmen, then I'm connected to the VPS server. All right? So I don't know why this takes so long, but now I'm in a terminal. All right, and I'm here in my home folder and have these files on the production server, and we have our backend here, and there's our front end, and we have a couple of things running in the background. That's our front end server. Then we have Postgres, and we have Redis, and whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
And we have CentOS. Show current OS. I can never remember how to do that on the command line. Uname -a. Uname -a. So, it's not showing us the distribution. It's just telling us we are on Linux and it's CentOS. I can tell you that this is a CentOS operating system. And we are not even using CentOS 7 here. We're using CentOS 6 because we're using, let's say, an outdated version of Uberspace. We have to migrate that. Actually, my goal would be to use Docker in production and get rid of virtual private service server altogether. I think DigitalOcean has affordable solutions for running Docker containers in production. I haven't had the time to have a look into it, but that would be, for example, something to improve. But this is a big thing. Changing the provider is something really like a big change.
Yeah.
So feel free to remove CentOS. The only reason why we have CentOS is to have the same system locally that we also use in production. But I think the disadvantage of having a really large image is worse than having a small reliability, right? I think the default Rails Docker container will not behave so much differently compared to the CentOS image, right?
No, they shouldn't really. It's more
Yeah,
like, as long as the containers can talk to each other, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
What operating system they use.
Exactly. I just don't want it to have surprises. I'm not a big fan of surprises, so I thought if we are using Docker and we can virtualize everything, let's always also use the exact same operating system in the Docker container which we use in production. But I think it's not so important anymore. Like it's not so important in general.
Yeah.
Because I don't think what is so operating system specific that we really need CentOS, right? So feel free to change that. Yeah. Now let's go to the Docker multi-stage builds. So a multi-stage build is a way of drastically improving the image file size. And it assumes that you have certain build artifacts that you need in order to create or compile your application. But you don't need it once it is compiled.
All right.
And you can, for example, here Go, they're using Go here. Go is a compile language. And they have the app. And they build the image, or they compile the image here. And they produce the binary that you can later on use, all right? But once you have the binary, you don't need all the other stuff. For example, you don't need Golang, right? Or this here.
Yeah.
And then they just say, okay, then switch to another image, which is very small, Linux Alpine, and just copy over. Here, you can see that. You copy from this stage. So they say they refer to it with the index, but you can also give it a name. You can name it the build stage. They do it here. So you can say name as builder. So this here is called builder, and everything in here is happening on the builder stage. And then you can go to another stage here, and this starts from scratch. Okay. And then you just copy the relevant binaries from here, and that's all you need. You don't need Go or anything like that. And this drastically improves the image file size, so it's really minimal. If you want to see a multi-stage build in action, I did that before. We did that for our project called Human Connection, and you have, for example, a multi-stage built in this Docker file. So you can see here, we're starting with Node Alpine.
Yeah.
So we're on Node.js. And here we have a builder stage that is compiling and transpiling all the files. And then we start from base again. So we skip that. And then we just copy the relevant, the compiled files from the dist folder.
Okay, so what you do is you just bypass the different layers that are created in the different build stages.
Yeah, and you don't have all the build files here. You just have everything you need. For example, dependencies. There are so many development dependencies you don't need once you have it in production.
No.
Right? So if you go back to RFM, let us quickly see what we have here. So we have obsolete layers. So here we can say also production something. We don't all and so on and so on. But Omar, honestly, I don't think it will be such an improvement because we are using Docker mostly in development. And for development, we need the builds, like the development dependencies. So I would suggest that you decrease the image file size by changing the base image here. Since we're using Docker for development and we're not using it in production, it's not so relevant to have smaller images and get rid of the development dependencies, you know? Because if we check it out, if we install it with Docker, as you did on your machine, you probably want to start developing with it. And for that, you need the development dependencies. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say this is more or less it. We also have the strange situation where we have Sidekick. This is also something that you could maybe have a look into it. Does it have an effect that we have 2 times? We have RFM backend, and we have yes, and we have Sidekick, which also depends on the backend container, right? Maybe you can have a look if that changes something. So we have for our staging, for a local staging environment, we have a Sidekick container who's doing background processing. And does it change something if we have 2 times the same Docker file? Do you see what I mean? So this Docker file here is referenced in 2 services.
Yes.
And I don't know if that makes an impact. Maybe we can improve it even more. I don't know yet. I have never done this before.
I don't know. Maybe I could have a look.
Yeah. So there's a lot to improve. All right.
Yeah.
Was it easy to understand? Did everybody could follow? Faith. Oh, and we have also Mike now. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Robert. I'm so late. Hi.
When did you join? How much of the conversation did you pick up?
You are talking about the Docker something build. Is it
multi-stage builds? So you joined in quite lately. Okay, it's all right. We were talking about how to. The problem is we have large Docker images, and how can we improve that? How we can make those Docker images smaller? All right.
Yeah.
Good. I would say it's now 8:20, and I would say this is a good time for closing the regular meeting. What do you think? Face showing thumbs up.
Yeah.
Omar and Mike, what about you? You have more questions?
No, these were my questions.
Nice.
I will rewatch this video. Yes.
All right. Yes. Yeah. The link is on Slack. Cool.
Yes.
Then I would say let's call it a day and see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good week. Goodbye.